imagine waking up in a world where being dirty might actually keep you alive. Not metaphorically, literally. It is the year 1348, and England is holding its breath as an invisible killer moves from town to town. The Black Death has arrived. People do not know about bacteria or viruses. They know only fear. And in that fear, something as simple as washing your body can feel like opening a door to death itself. When I first learned this, it unsettled me. We think of dirt as the enemy. They thought of it as armor. Medieval physicians warned that hot water opened the pores, and once open, poisonous air could slip inside. They believed disease floated in the air like a curse waiting for a weak point. Clean skin was exposed skin, vulnerable skin, so people avoided bathing, not because they were lazy, but because they were trying to survive. Mourning in medieval England did not begin with a shower. It began with cold stone floors and heavy air. You wake beneath rough wool blankets that have absorbed months of sweat. Your first breath carries the smell of your own body, mixed with smoke from last night's fire. There is no bathroom waiting nearby, no steaming water, no comforting routine. Only a small basin of cold water, if you are lucky. You dip a cloth into it, the cold bites your fingers instantly. You wipe your face, your hands, perhaps your neck, and then you stop. Not because you are clean, but because that is enough. That is all anyone expects. The rest of your body remains hidden beneath layers of clothing and layers of time. What fascinates me most is how normal this felt to them. They were not constantly disgusted. They were not thinking about freshness the way we do. This was simply life. The human body, in its natural state, unwashed and unprotected, was considered fragile. Dirt became a shield, a barrier between flesh and fate. And yet, this protection came at a cost. Skin itched. Hair thickened with oil and dust. Clothes stiffened with sweat. But removing that layer felt dangerous. Imagine living in a world where the thing that makes you comfortable might also make you die. That quiet calculation shaped every morning of their lives. Even the wealthy, who could afford servants and fine fabrics, did not escape this reality. They did not trust water. Instead, they trusted linen. Clean linen shirts were believed to pull sickness out of the body. Nobles would change their undergarments again and again, believing the cloth purified them. They felt safe, even if they had not touched water in weeks. Scent became another form of defense. Herbs were everywhere. Lavender tucked into sleeves. Rosemary hidden near the chest, not to impress anyone but to protect the mind from the truth. Because beneath the perfume, the human smell never fully disappeared. It lingered in homes, in beds, in crowded streets. It became part of the world itself. Step outside, and the air feels thick, used, shared by thousands of unwashed bodies. You breathe it anyway. You have no choice. Life continues. Work continues. Survival leaves no room for comfort. I think that is what makes this moment feel so distant and yet so human. Fear changed their habits. Fear rewrote what it meant to feel safe inside your own skin, and I cannot help but wonder what that did to a person. Did they stop noticing it, or did they simply accept it? Did they lie awake at night, aware of their own skin, feeling both protected and trapped inside it? Because this was only the beginning of their daily struggle. What happened next after the morning ended was even harder to ignore. The world outside was far less forgiving. Standing there in that cold morning light, wiping your face with freezing water, you would not feel unclean. You would feel cautious. You would feel exposed. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you would wonder whether staying dirty was the only thing keeping you alive. And there was no escaping it, no matter who you were in that fragile year then. By midday, the reality of medieval life became impossible to ignore. The body was only part of the problem. Waste was everywhere, and there was no clean way to make it disappear. Castles, which we imagine as symbols of power and beauty, hid one of the most uncomfortable truths of the age. Inside thick stone walls, toilets were nothing more than holes carved into stone benches. These spaces were called garderobes. When you sat there, there was no water to carry anything away. Everything fell straight down into a pit below. In summer, the smell rose back up with terrifying strength. It burned the nose and clung to the air. I try to imagine standing there, dressed in heavy wool, breathing slowly, trying not to gag. And yet, this was normal. This was architecture designed for survival, not comfort. What shocked me most was how people adapted. Nobles often hung their clothes near these spaces. The rising fumes, sharp and toxic, killed fleas hiding in the fabric. The toilet became a place of protection. It sounds disturbing now, but to them it was practical. Every decision was shaped by necessity. Outside castle walls, life was harsher. Ordinary people used wooden buckets inside their homes. When full, the waste was carried out and dumped into pits, or worse, straight into the street. Rain sometimes washed it away. Sometimes it did not. The streets became layers of mud, waste, and memory. Walking through them meant accepting that your boots would never truly be clean. There were men whose entire lives revolved around this darkness. They were called gong farmers. They worked at night when others slept. Their job was to empty the pits by hand, hauling away what no one wanted to see. It was dangerous work. The air itself could kill. Some suffocated. Others fell in and never climbed out. And yet, the city depended on them completely. When I think about their lives, I feel a strange kind of respect. They lived in the shadows of history, keeping everyone else alive without recognition. No glory, no comfort, just duty. It makes me realize how different comfort really is. Today, cleanliness is effortless. Invisible systems protect us. Back then, survival was physical, immediate, personal. Every smell, every sensation, every moment reminded you of your own vulnerability. And maybe that is the part that stays with me the most. They endured a world we would struggle to tolerate for a single day. Not because they were stronger, but because they had no alternative. They woke up. They endured. They lived anyway. And somehow, against all odds, humanity moved forward from that harsh and unforgiving world. Night did not bring relief. Darkness only made everything feel closer. You returned home carrying the outside world on your clothes, on your skin, in your breath. There was no washing it away. You simply lay down and accepted it. Fleas lived in the fabric around you. They moved quietly, feeding without permission. People did not fully understand them, but they understood the itching, the irritation, the slow erosion of comfort. Sometimes I wonder what silence felt like in those rooms. No running water, no hum of electricity, only breathing, shifting fabric, and distant footsteps outside. Your body existed in constant negotiation with the world around it. You could never fully separate yourself from it. And yet, there was resilience in that acceptance. People still laughed, they still loved, they still woke up each day and stepped into the same harsh reality. They did not see themselves as dirty. They saw themselves as alive. That realization changes how I see history. It stops being a story about primitive people and becomes a story about human endurance. They were not waiting for a better world. They were surviving the only world they had, and in that quiet endurance, they carried humanity forward, one uncomfortable day at a time. When I imagine it, I feel grateful and unsettled. Cleanliness is not guaranteed. It is a gift of time.